Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tearing It Up. I think, are going to have a really fun and real and raw and honest conversation today, which always makes things fun because it's just, I think, great to hear the real sides of things and people and not only focus on the good. And that's kind of been my theme of the week that I'm in, is just like probably oversharing, but it's, it just like, and sometimes I feel a little like, is it too, am I too negative when I'm sharing the bad and this and that? But it's a part of us and we have to talk about it and get it out. And again, that's what makes us real humans, by sharing the whole story and not just like, this is the good that's happening or happened and whatnot. So yeah, I just feel like I'm kind of on a theme, and don't get me wrong, we are going to be talking about good and great things, but I just feel that we'll all get to some places today in the conversation that can hit home for a lot of you out there as well. And I'm excited to dig into that. So with all that being said, I'm also going to remind you, as I have been at the top of every episode, of sharing, subscribing, following, reviewing, all those fun things that help this tiny little podcast out. Please do that. Share with your friends. Again, just hit that follow if you haven't, or a quick 5-star review if you have a moment, a little rating, or actual comment, that is. Those are always nice too. But without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest today. We have Brooke with us, and I am stoked to have her because we've chatted over the last, it's been like a year, I think, because Brooke was working with Heather's Choice. So she was the person that I was communicating with to get Heather Kelly on the podcast of Heather's Choice both times. She's been a supporter of the podcast since we've started chatting. And now we get to talk in a whole different realm and world. So it's exciting to be with her on a different side of things rather than her just marketing for someone else. She is here representing her. And so, Brooke, where are you physically in the world today as we record?
I am currently in Peoria, Arizona. It is like a kind of small suburb of Phoenix. So yeah, that's where I'm calling in from today.
Awesome. We are in quite different weather patterns, I think, right now.
Yes, we are. We actually did get some rain today, like a significant amount, and I was like, "Hey, look at that! Arizona can get rain. What a concept!"
Yeah, totally. You definitely do not put those two things together often. It's been a while since I've been really bundled up, but I this morning was just feeling like I had to get out and move a little bit, and it was sunny out. It snowed just a few inches throughout yesterday or whatnot, but I bundled up first thing and just kind of been walking literally around the property, not on like a major walk or anything. But when I got back inside, I just was like not ready to delayer. And then after sitting, so yeah, I have my puffy jacket on, beanie. The thermometer says it's 21 degrees out there still. So yeah, my feet are cold, but yeah, totally. So I'm full and back in winter mode for sure. Amber, what's happening up in Washington?
It is sunny. Like, we have clouds and slightly blue skies. So that's a win for the PNW for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to get into some things here. And Brooke, let's see. I'm trying to figure out here without jumping like too far ahead or anything, and being able to get into our backstory. First, I guess, tell us what has brought you to Arizona, because it's kind of recent that you've been there, right? In the grand scheme.
Yes. Yeah, super recent. And if it's helpful, I can just kind of like give kind of like a backstory of how I even got to Alaska and then kind of shorten it up from there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Great. So I'm currently in Arizona, which is where I grew up, where I spent my first 18 years. And then just recently, as of early November, my wife and I moved back to Arizona because we'd lived in Alaska for about 11 years. And we just kind of hit that point where we're like, we've been away for a long enough period of time. Like, siblings are starting to have babies, and we're just ready to be kind of closer to family. Like, we did the thing where we were far enough away and just like kind of had our own little universe, little orb and everything that we were in. And now we're like, okay, we're ready to be back. But how we got to Alaska was we actually both ended up there at the same time because my wife is from Southern California. We both played volleyball at the local college there. And so we both got scholarships, magically ended up there at the same time, played our last 2 years of eligibility, and then just kind of decided to stay because like we kind of enjoyed being away for a while and just kind of like a new adventure. Fast forward, like I want to say about 8 years. I ended up helping coach the college that I played volleyball at. And right at the beginning of 2019, I was on the coaching staff. We did our spring season of 2019. And then kind of we had our fall season of 2019. And then we all know COVID happened in 2020. And so it was kind of crazy. Like COVID was kind of like this thing happening in late 2019, and then early 2020, like we had most of our spring season, and then spring break hit and we just like never came back to school, which was like wild. And I was on like the school's system like schedule where you obviously have summers off. And so I'd known that we were going to not be working in the summer so much. And my wife and I just went and like at the height of COVID, just decided to kind of come back down to the States and like spend time with family because that's what we usually do in the summer anyways, kind of like take a month off and just go be near sunshine and the beach. And then we just decided to kind of like stay there for an extended period of time. And we were like, well, I think we kind of need to start looking for other jobs because we were both working for the university at the time. And like everybody was furloughed. It's like, we don't know if anybody's coming back to school at this time. Like there was just no like end in sight really. And so by this time we'd made it back to Alaska. We actually drove from Southern California all the way up to Alaska, which is like a whole nother story that I would recommend anybody do, but it was like one of the best trips ever. But we made it back to Alaska. I started just like scouring like Facebook and like all these places for just like part-time temporary jobs. And Heather's Choice happened to be one of them. And it was like food manufacturing. But I remember the description being something along the lines of like making cookies or something. And I was like, I can make cookies. Like I make cookies all the time anyways in my home kitchen. So why not just do it on like a bigger scale? And so I filled out the application, had an interview, and sure enough, like a week later, I'm in the kitchen, like doing the thing, learning how to make macaroons. And it was so fun, like the atmosphere and the people that were working there. Me and this other guy got hired at the same time. And so we were being trained. And it was really cool just to see like what food manufacturing was. And so I think I started in September of 2020. And I remember maybe like a month after I started, I was like on the way in filling bags of like breakfast or salmon chowder or something. And Heather was at the kitchen and she's like, oh, I could like really use some help on some admin stuff, like not asking me, but just kind of like talking out loud and saying like, I just have all these other things that I need to do, but I always fall back on the things that are kind of easy, or that like, that I can like, don't have to take up as much like brain space. And so I was just like, I mean, I could help, if you need some help, I'm happy to, learn or step in or like whatever you need help with. And she was like, oh, that would be awesome. And so that was maybe like October, November timeframe. And so I kind of started doing a little bit of admin work and would like spend my mornings at the kitchen and then a few hours kind of over at the warehouse, which was across the street, and like do some computer work. And then Heather was going on a 30-day Grand Canyon trip in, like not November, January or February. And she's like, hey, do you want to like answer the wholesale email and like kind of like handle those customers? And I was like, what's wholesale? what even is that? And so I had like no idea what I was doing. But the other girl that was kind of like the warehouse manager, her and I worked together, and she kind of was like, okay, these are the accounts, and by that time it was like mostly Alaskan accounts, a few others. And basically I was just answering emails, like seeing if we had any orders, which by that time it was January, February, not really busy times for the business. And so I kind of like dipped my toes into sales. And like shortly after, I don't even know how, like what the time frame was, but then like soon after that, my full time was like wholesale with Heather's Choice. And I was like growing the business, getting new accounts, like calling on new accounts. And then it just like really snowballed from there, where it was like, okay, now we're growing the wholesale business. Okay, now like I'm the point of contact for our like key accounts, REI, Sportsman's Warehouse, like all of this just like really started to take off. And I was like, I mean, this is kind of cool. And keep in mind, like I went to school for like sports and recreation business at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I took one sales class, and I was like, I'm never gonna do sales. Like, sales are stupid. Like, that's not who I'm gonna be. And I like hated that class. And then, of course, here I am, the wholesale manager at Heather's Choice, and I was like, of course, that would totally happen to me. So
I feel like that happens a lot
Yes.
That's a whole other like rabbit hole to go down of school. And, one of those things of like, yep, you just go this route, right? Straight to school, do this. And then you get into life and you're like, oh yeah, not the direction that I thought I was going to go. But
definitely not. So yeah, that's kind of like my short and sweet Heather's Choice, like how I joined the team. But like, yeah, kind of, I guess, to summarize it, it really snowballed really fast. And I was there for a total of 4.5 years and just learned so much about like the inner workings of small businesses and startups and fundraising. And it was just really this crash course of, just small businesses. And I gained so much information and knowledge from it that like, it was just an absolute blast being there.
that is one of the best ways to learn, at least personally for me, is just being thrown into things. And so you started off, I think it's so cool of like, yeah, I can make cookies. Sure, I make cookies all the time. And then to learn that like, okay, this isn't exactly a cookie, right? There's like the packaroons are a whole nother like monster. And there's just so much more behind Heather's Choice too, with all her food and everything like that. And then to just, offer, oh, I can help like take a little bit off your plate here and there to form into like the high level position really in this, and seeing the inner workings of everything. That's what I think is so cool too of what you did there. And that's something that I enjoy. I don't know, I end up just doing it, and I swear I don't try to do it, but like turn everything kind of into work, because that's how I understand it all. Is like, if I could go to a festival or a concert or something like that, but how about I actually work behind the scenes so I see how it's all put together? Like, it's just such a crazy way to learn. And I love, like I said, just knowing the inner workings of things. So, and it gives you so much experience. Like you said, all of these things that you learned, like, how else are you going to learn them without just getting thrown in there? Obviously, you can go the school route, get the job and that, but I feel like when it's in that way, you're specifically learning one thing. Like if you were actually had gone to school for sales and got a job in sales, like that's all you would know. You wouldn't have known it from literally the ground up of making the food and working your way up that ladder. And I think that can ultimately create like some of the best business people out there. And that's where also why a lot of founders of small businesses have such a tight tie to their business, and it's hard for them to let go of things in certain positions and even hand anything off, because they have seen it grow. They've done everything. They've touched every part of their business, and they want to like keep it going. And those founders are the like boots on the ground, scrappy people who make it happen. There's just small businesses is a whole nother world and type of people, I think.
Oh my gosh, it really is. And it's so intricate, and it's so like, it's just really, really unique. And I love it because love the fact of being so multifaceted and not just being like, okay, I'm going to show up to my computer every single day at 8 a.m. and I'm going to do the emails and I'm going to do the same tasks as yesterday. And then I'm going to sign out at 5 p.m. and like done for the day, like, and repeat over and over Monday through Friday. Like that was never the case at Heather's Choice. And it was always like one other employee kind of like came up with this like slogan that like every month at Heather's Choice, something like it's different than the past month. Like nothing ever really like stays the same. There's always something happening, always something new. We've learned something, we've changed, we've implemented something else. And it's just, that's the really awesome part of small businesses that I really enjoyed.
And that is definitely not for everybody, right? A lot of people really need that strict kind of routine of this is what I do daily. They need to know what to expect daily. And there is definitely pros and cons to having routines. I am somewhere in the middle of like a certain amount of routine, but also like you, I need a lot of like kind of change of scenery, change of pace. It just keeps me excited and also can keep me a little more focused, even if that feels like it wouldn't because I can just get bored and kind of like drift off and daydream and whatever if things are the same. But if things are different, then it helps me like pay attention a little bit more and stay more focused on things. And like I said, with small businesses, even with all the jobs I've had, they've all been smaller businesses. So yeah, there's something different every day or every month, every week. It's just, you don't know what to expect, and it's all a fun ride. But again, yeah, there's definitely some pros to the like bigger businesses and having benefits or, knowing like what might happen, because obviously as small businesses grow and they try to get bigger, big changes can happen and happen within the team, which I'm sure we'll get to with where you're at now. I am curious though, before when this all started with Heather's Choice, COVID was going on, wild times. No one knew what's happening, and you just needed some work. Did you have any expectation, like, or what was your expectation rather on taking that job? Like, this will be a few months, and then I'll be back to like coaching, or were you looking for jobs that did align with what your degree was?
Yeah, that's a great question. My initial like reason for being at Heather's Choice and taking the job, and what I even told Brad, who's like the COO, I was like, I'm also still coaching right now, because around that September timeframe, there was like talks of like, okay, now we can have practices. Everybody, has to wear masks. Of course, it can only be for X amount of time, and kind of like setting up those stipulations. Like maybe we'll have a season, maybe it'll just be like delayed a little bit. And so I was like still very into coaching, because my whole entire life was like volleyball. It was basically like laid out for me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like collegiate coaching was like the mecca. And then I was like, this is incredible that I get this opportunity. And it was just like, that's what I was focused on. And so I was like, I just kind of need like cash at this point to, like supplement my income. And so I was at Heather's Choice, making the cookies, doing the things, and like kind of started to realize pretty quickly that I was like, oh, I'm learning so much so quickly here. And I did Heather's Choice part-time as well as coaching when we would have practices and stuff for probably the whole entire spring of 21. And then it came time to be like, okay, am I going to do summer camps with the college, or am I going to kind of like shift gears and really like focus on Heather's Choice? Because I was starting to look at it in a different way of like, this might not just be like a part-time gig anymore. Like, I think I could actually get a lot of knowledge out of this company and just really grow, and like was just really enjoying it. Loved the people, loved the atmosphere, all of that kind of good stuff. It was just really vibing with me. And so I was like, I never thought I would do this, but I think I'm going to like let the volleyball thing go and like really focus on this Heather's Choice stuff, like get into sales, dabble in a little bit of marketing, and just kind of like see where it goes. Cause I feel like I could just like catapult so much more quickly. Whereas if I would have stuck with the collegiate volleyball, like I would have been an assistant for like however many years. And then like maybe I could have eventually been a head coach, but also it's it's a lot of sacrifice, like kind of not as much as small business, I feel like, but it's like so much travel. It's a lot of pressure. Like if you're married and you have kids, you want to grow a family, like kind of have to rely on your spouse or like caretaking. So there's a lot to it that I was like, well, I don't know if that's really actually the route that I want to go down. And so I kind of just made this decision, like had this fork in the road, and I was like, I think I'm going to stick with the Heather's Choice thing. And so, yeah, I did both for a little bit, but ended up eventually choosing Heather's Choice, which I did not see in the cards for myself.
That's amazing. And I mean, it's really hard to be in those positions where you're doing something you really love and are passionate about. And that was like kind of your tunnel vision. Like, this is what I want to do. This is how I see my life going and or what I want to build. And then all of a sudden something comes into your life and you're like, oh, well, I can see another route now. And you come to this fork in the road, like, which way do I go? It can be so hard to be in those positions because you just, obviously, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. It feels like either way you go, there's going to be a certain risk. But when there's something, like I said, that's been there for a longer time, I feel like that's harder to choose the other thing. There's a lot more questions like, what am I doing? Like, I've worked so hard to get here, and now I'm just going to like leave it for something that's just barely kind of been a flicker in my life, and I really don't know where it could lead, and I don't have any much vision like kind of past this. And like I said, it just takes a lot to take that somewhat of a hard left, really. It seems, but it's also like, I think it's really good for us to have those and to be in those moments and just know that like those things can come up. And this is what I talk about all the time with just life in general, and my outlook on any kind of relationships or anything is just things change, people grow. You just don't know what's going to happen in life that can suddenly change your track. Like, you can have all these dreams and goals and like make all these promises in the world, but the reality is like you can really only take it day by day, and we don't know what's going to be given to us and what things are going to happen, where our minds might change, our paths might change, and it's okay. But it's really hard, and I think a lot of people get a lot of flack on sometimes making those decisions or being at the point like, oh, well, it shouldn't be because I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to do that. I said I was going to do this, and now I don't want to. It's like, well, again, it's okay. It's all right. We evolve, and our wants and desires change. So, and it doesn't sound like you regret that path at all. Like, did you have a hard time kind of transitioning at all and then taking it on? Did you have any moments of like, was this the right choice, especially when the next fall came around and the next season of volleyball started up and you were not there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you, and not to get like too woo-woo-y or anything, but like I am wholehearted, like everything happens for a reason in the right timing. Like I look back on so many events in my life and I'm like, wow, that was such a like pivotal moment, or like everything had to line up so properly for like my life to turn out exactly how it is. Like, even if I go back to like me making the decision to go to Alaska, like Arizona to Alaska is like a big difference. And so
That's like a
everyone's
180
like,
for
really?
sure.
Yeah. Everyone's like, you sure? And like, I was actually like reliving this, but I was like, before I went to Alaska, I was like, what do people wear to keep warm there? Like, do they wear jeans? Do they have like special kind of pants? Like, what is the like, well, how does it work up there? But anyways, like prior to me even being part of the collegiate coaching staff, I was like a teacher at the preschool for the local hospital. And if I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to be a collegiate coach, like I would have never gotten the opportunity to be at Heather's Choice, because if I would have stayed at the preschool and been like there for a longer period of time, like I would have just wrote it out through COVID, and I would have never had to like gone and looked for another position. You know what I mean? So like all of these things, it's like, yes, at the time I thought like the collegiate coach opportunity was like opening up the door for me to explore that, when in actuality it was like a stepping stone for me to then to like catapult me into the Heather's Choice position. So I completely agree with you that like everything happens for a reason, and these changes, while sometimes they don't seem like the best opportunity for us in the moment, like I have absolutely zero regrets of ever like joining the Heather's Choice team. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's I mean, we love getting woo-woo here for sure. And it
Oh,
is
perfect.
that cliche thing of like everything happens for a reason, and there's certain times in life where that feels like there's the times where it's the wrong time to say it or to think it, and like you just can't accept it kind of thing. But when you look back, then you can see how it fell into place. There's just times where it's like, wow, this hurts. This is a gut punch and I don't get it. And like, why is life kind of doing this? Or, why can't this just like work out? And it takes time to kind of climb out of those holes. But then you're able to look back and see like, okay, it worked out because of this, but it can definitely take a while. Like we are not by any means like dismissing anyone who might be in some of those moments and you're like sitting there in the muck thinking like, yeah, no, fuck that. I'm going through something where I can't see the light. Like we all understand that and we all understand being in those moments, but there will be a time that you can look back and be like, okay, like you said, there was that stepping stone. It was a stepping stone. It wasn't the end all, even though it might feel like that in the moments and after the moments, and it could take years to come out of those things. But so eventually you can look back and see it as the stepping stone, and a pivotal point, and that has put you on a better path or brought you to something that like you could have never imagined. And I think that we just have to remember sometimes when we're in the middle of this shit that like just keep looking ahead, like it's gonna be hard and you're gonna want to stop, but if you stop then there's definitely gonna be like the hurt and the pain and the regret, and that's all you're gonna feel.
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like I'm absolutely in one of those phases right now because I did leave the Heather's Choice community at the beginning of January. And it was like total, like you mentioned, like gut punch, like I was like, oh my gosh, this like feels awful because Heather and I had built such a like strong relationship and friendship. Like we were neighbors, like it wasn't just this like boss employee relationship. It was very much that a lot of the time because I was her employee, but also it was so much more than that. We like traveled together for trade shows. We went over to each other's houses for barbecues, and like I would watch her chickens and her dog, when they would be out of town. And it was just so much deeper of a relationship, which is another reason why I love small businesses, because it's like you can have those intimate relationships and you guys get to like go through so many like hard times together. And again, I don't have any regrets on it. I'm so like thankful for the opportunity and like getting to like be a part of that team and really watch it grow and like experience that and just absorb so much information and knowledge at the same time. And now I'm like doing my best to kind of take all of that, everything that I learned in those 4.5 years and like do something of my own with it. So yeah, I'm definitely at that stepping point right now where it's like, okay, I can now make a decision on what I want to do. And like, if I take everything that I learned from that past experience and like put it out into the world, like, what do I want to do? What do I think that I'm good at? And like, what are the things that I enjoy doing, that it's not just going to be like absolutely soul sucking and just kind of like, putting that out there. So it is definitely a stepping stone right now. And there are times where I'm like, is this the right decision? I don't know. Should I just like go and look for another job, in the outdoor community, or like just go, be a barista at the coffee shop down the street just because, like it's an easy job and like it gives me income. And like, there's just so many like wonders going on constantly in my head of like, is this the right next move? But like, we never know if it is until we actually like do the thing. And if I don't take the opportunity right now to like kind of like explore that for myself and like explore this like freelancing option, then like 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, man, I really wish I would have like, I wonder what would have happened if I like went for it, if I really like put my like effort and energy and everything I had into this, and like what would have happened if I actually like went for it and like built something for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most of us move through every day questioning something, like wondering, is this the right choice? What if, like, what's gonna happen? Like, it's really hard, and I especially think in our current climate of the world, of the nation, that it's hard to move through the day without wondering what the fucking future holds. And especially when we're at these life points of like pivotal times. And this is where, I kind of mentioned in the beginning of talking about some real raw feelings. Like, you created a relationship with Heather far beyond just employee and boss. And that that happens to a lot of us in work situations, whether you're just like coworkers or things, and everything feels good and comfortable and cush, and then like something happens. And we talked about like making those choices, the fork in the road. I get to choose. Do I go left? Do I go right? But what about the moments when you don't get to choose? You were catapulted into a new position in life that you did not choose to be in. You weren't ready to be in, and like didn't expect it, especially because you had a friendship there. And I want to dig into that a little bit and what those kind of feelings brought up for you when the news kind of came about the changes in Heather's choice, as much as you want to share about the situation and how you moved on from it, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got the news, I was like, oh, like totally taken by surprise, which I feel like that happens most of the time with anybody when they kind of, like learn that they're getting laid off, or, I mean, maybe if you're getting like fired, sometimes that feels like you can see that coming, but like getting
You
laid off,
should. I feel like you should.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like maybe you're not like hitting all the standards and they're like, okay. But yeah, when I learned about it from Heather, I was like, oh, okay, wow, this is not what I had planned for 2025. Like I was not expecting this. I really like was planning to grow with the company because they are at such a pivotal, like changing moment. Like Heather's Choice has physically moved locations from Anchorage, and we've been planning this for years, like really trying to make it happen. And it's like, okay, when we get to the lower 48, things are going to be so much like, quote unquote easier, because we don't have to ship everything up to Alaska and then ship it back down. And like things are going to change. And so I was like, yes, we're finally doing it. We're going to grow. We're going to be able to service so many more key accounts. We're going to be closer to our target audience. We'll be able to do in-person events, and we can like travel easier and all. Like I was planning for all of that and so excited to do that. And then, yeah, just got the news and I was like, okay, well, this is different. Like this is not what I was planning for. And I had like my last day, and it definitely felt like I was like leaving high school, or like, like graduation, and like
going across country from your friends or something.
Yes, like writing in everybody's yearbook, or like my version is like sending out emails, just like trying to be nice and be like, hey, this is, the news. Like, if you want to keep in contact, I'd love to, keep in contact. Here's my personal email. But it was definitely like last day of senior year, like going off to college or something. It was definitely the vibe for me. And then I obviously went through the whole entire like grieving phase and was so sad because I had planned, and was excited about this new change for the company, and was just like, yes, like after 4 years of just like constant struggle, like it's going to be different, and we're going to be able to make more food, and we're not going to be out of stock as much as we were. And like all of these problems are going to, like, of course, magically disappear. And then I was grieving the loss of a job, also like losing income, like kind of having my schedule be freed up and not really being tied to my computer, just like so many changes that came with it. And like, then after about maybe a week or two, I was like, oh, I am also like really grieving the loss of a major friendship in my life. Like, of course, Heather was like so nice and kind, you know, about the whole entire thing, and was just like, I really, like, I'm not going to reach out because I don't want to like just like assume that nothing happened, you know? And she's like, I just really want to like be mindful of boundaries and everything like that, which is, of course, is like so nice and so kind. And I like totally understand it. And like, same went for me, where I didn't want to just like be like, hey, you know, like, I know we kind of did this thing that's like a really big change for both of us, but like now we can just like be friends, you know, and just like act like nothing ever happened. And it's like, as much as I wanted to do that, and as much as I wanted to just like keep sending each other funny videos on Instagram and like text her funny things that happened, or like all of the farm animals like around my family's, you know, house and stuff, it's like, no, I definitely need to like process this, because I've never had like a major relationship like this that was so interwoven into my life. And just I really took the time to kind of like process that and really grieve it. And like, it's such an interesting thing, because that like, on one side, I'm so thankful, and I still am so thankful for like the opportunity, everything that I learned, all of the knowledge, all the skills that I gained, and like relationships, even from like all of the other brands that I would go to trade shows with and see, and like all of that networking stuff. And on the other side, I was like so angry too, because I was like we were in this together, you know, like we were doing this together, and like we had a plan, and like we saw like the way forward, and now I just like get cut out of the plan, and now I just am left being like, okay, like my whole life shifted, where I was like so used to going to the grocery store and being like, oh wow, this new brand, like being in the food business, this new brand is doing this really awesome thing, and like we should do that for Heather's Choice, and like everything just immediately shifted. And I really had to like process that and take the time to be like, okay, well, I could very easily go out and get another job, you know, start applying and using my networking and contacts to just kind of like do the thing. Or I could kind of step out on my own, take what I've learned at Heather's Choice and like find the things that I really enjoy doing and like hone in on those and offer them up as services to other small businesses, which is what I'm doing right now. But it was definitely a shock to the system. There are times where it's still like very, very sad, of course, but it's been a few months, and I'm sure it'll still be like a roller coaster every now and then. But yeah, it was like really nice to kind of like recognize that for myself, of being like, okay, I'm not crazy for just like mourning this loss of a job for so long. Like I'm grieving so much more than just the loss of a job.
Absolutely. The full grieving process, like, so just like the anger and then processing the different parts of it. And again, I think that there's a lot of us out there where we've had jobs or have jobs where, yeah, if you leave and whatever, it's like, cool, I was done with that. But so many of us are like our work is intertwined in us somehow. Like, so whether it's coworkers that we're friends with, just the day to day, it's not just like, oh, I don't work here anymore and now my days look different. Like I said, you don't talk to the same people every day. I really liked your analogy of like leaving school. It's like, oh yeah, graduating, kind of moving on, and now I'm not going to class every day with the same people, and it's like maybe sometimes you're ready for it, you think, but once it happens, it still takes some time and change. And I want to be clear here too to everybody that like there's no bad blood with Heather. And Heather's Choice is like, you still support them so much. And this is, I think, one thing that a lot of people in your position, being friends and such good friends, it could probably be very, very, very hard to take. Like I said, you were mourning the loss of a friendship because your friendship inevitably will change because of how much time you spent together in business and outside of business. But also, like, some people would take it so personally and just be like, how could you have not set business aside and put me first? Like you said, you were there. I know she's referred to you as her right hand woman too. And so I think honestly, for me, that would have probably been the hardest thing and that would have been the first thing to kind of like mourn and be like, oh my God, like, how could you like kind of do this to me type thing. And it sounds like you took it so well and did not take it as personally as some would. Like, yes, you did, like, so mourn the loss of the friendship and recognizing it's changing, but you also know what she's going through with business growth and how hard this decision was for her too. And I think that's just absolutely amazing that you were able to keep that in the forefront of your mind, at least most of the time, that knowing, like I said, that this was not an easy choice for her. And unfortunately, that's just the position that you were in. And I think a lot of small businesses I've been seeing are making some changes into their staff. And again, I know it's not easy. They want to provide people jobs. They want to be close to their employees. They want to have like a family environment. And then this is the sucky part about being a founder of those small businesses, that you have to make the hard decisions too, that you really don't want to have to make. But when you're looking at things like the wide vision of things and thinking like, okay, well, I can step back into this role, but I can't step into this role that someone else is doing. And it sounds like that may have been kind of the position that she was in, of like, I can take back over this stuff because like I can't do this over here. I really can't get like cut. And it just sucks. It just sucks that that happened, and that, you know, the friendship inevitably will be a little bit affected, but mostly because now you're not working together. You don't have that time together is what it sounds like is kind of the biggest hit to the friendship, is like, you're not talking every day. You're not seeing each other every day. So you're not going to stay in touch the same. And that's how relationships can change in general too. Just friends moving away, right? Like, it's sad when you can't be talking to your best friend every day or seeing them every day, but that doesn't mean there's not a place for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I totally, to reiterate, there's like absolutely no bad blood from Heather's Choice or to Heather's Choice or to Heather. Like, love the company. The product is incredible. It will still be the only product that I eat anytime I go hiking, backpacking, or camping, or traveling on a plane, or like whatever. It, like, that's the only stuff that I'm going to eat. So like,
Yeah.
just getting that out there. But it was, and I do know that it was so hard for her to make that decision. Like, I do not take it lightly anytime that like founders have to make really tough decisions, when either it's like staffing, just like any big monumental shifts that are gonna, you know, temporarily or long term, or like just change the business, and like how shocking that can be to the system, for employees, for the community, like for whatever it is. I know that is like such a hard decision to make. And I know that like she was doing it in the best interest of the company. And also I do believe that she was doing it in the best interest for me, because I know like our relationship was so deep that like we talked about like anything and everything under the sun. And like she knew that I had the potential to kind of like go out on my own and like do bigger and better things. And I do also think that she really believed that Heather's Choice was kind of like holding me back, again, in quotations, in a sense. And while it was always my decision to stay with Heather's Choice, I think she really wanted to kind of like set me free and be like, go fly, little birdie.
Yes.
Like, you can do it into the big world, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, it was just such a, and still is such a like, you know, mind shift and like mind boggle of like, oh, I loved being there so much, and I love the people, and I love the company, and I love the product, and I love getting to travel, and like all of those things. And also it's like, oh yeah, like this is also a really great opportunity for me to kind of like step into something bigger, and not necessarily like wait for the company to kind of like catch up to my timeline, I guess, is kind of like what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, it was such a, I hope, and I think that Heather and I will obviously like rekindle our relationship, because yeah, we're just so similar in so many ways, which is why I think we got along so well. And I just loved being like, she's such an amazing person to be around. She's incredibly magnetic. Like she's so, she just has this way with people that just anytime you're with her, it feels like you're the only person in the room, and that she just like loves and adores you. And she's just so good at everything that she does. And like feels things so deeply, and her and I are just really aligned on a lot of things. And so I'm excited for when we do kind of get to like even kind of rekindle our relationship, but also like have it in this new phase where it's not employee boss relationship, where it is just strictly like friends, and I don't have to like deliver a project to her on time or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I am really excited for that phase. And yeah.
And that's a great way of looking at it too. Like, so now we can take the business out of it. There doesn't have to be any worry about that kind of weirdness or anything when something in the business happens and you have to, or you just have to turn from like friends to business, business to friends, and that just like hitting that switch all the time can't be, it's not healthy really for anybody. And it's really hard to navigate. I mean, there's plenty of founders that like started their business with their friends or significant others, and yes, we know that things can work out for sure. But this is a little bit different in the fact that you became friends after working with her. So I think that there's a big foundation there to now just be able to explore like being friends and still supporting each other on your own individual journeys. And like you said, this is everything you've learned from there and the support you got throughout the way, and now like you're taking on some freelance things yourself, and I think that's amazing. And you have a real like big core aspect here to look back on and show people like, this is what I did for this brand, and that's an amazing thing to have like in your back pocket as you go into freelancing and be able to explore this world of like setting your own boundaries and working with who you want to and exploring different projects. I think that's the beauty of it too. Like, yeah, you were doing a million things with Heather's Choice, but now you can kind of pick and choose. Well, like, I didn't really like to do that side so much, but I loved doing that. And that's got to be a fun intersection to be at. And since you are out on this freelancing kind of journey, I don't know if this is like super relevant right now. You may not know, but has this made you feel any kind of certain way about moving forward in a business or a job and like having a worry of building a relationship with someone and be like, well, I don't want to get that close because I don't want this to happen again, even though it hasn't been there's a grieving process, but there's no bad blood or anything. But has it changed your outlook on friendship and business?
No, I don't think so. Because I feel like I'm not that type of person, honestly. Like, maybe it'll be a little bit in the back of my mind of like, there is, I mean, there's always the possibility, right? But I feel like I'm just such a, like in the moment, like I'm not just going to hold myself back just for like to not make connections with people. Cause I mean, I don't feel like I have that kind of outlook on life. And that's not how I really want to live my life. Like I'd much rather make those really deep connections. And like, if there is like a splitting up, kind of down the way, then like, so be it, that's life. But I'd much rather connect with people so deeply and like have those relationships and friendships than kind of like be hesitant, because that's just not really like who I am or how I want to live my life, I guess.
I love that. I mean, that's just not living in fear. But a lot of after situations like this, a lot of people can have that kind of fear guiding them of things happening again. And I love that your outlook is like, nope, not in you to do that way. And I mean, because again, it's just going to hold you back if you do. You'll be worried about going here or there and building a relationship, and it's like, like we mentioned, inevitably things are gonna change, and you just got to take everything as it comes and to not let it hold you back from even trying, because then you're gonna have the what ifs, like again what we talked about, like what if I didn't try then, like another cliche, miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'd much rather like be in relationship with people and like have those past memories and stuff than be like, oh, well, I could have given, like I could have opened myself more, and kind of like had this relationship and dug a little bit deeper. But yeah, I'd much rather like have a lot of friends that are really great and like have a lot of relationships that are really deep and intimate than just much more like surface level, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, and something I mentioned in the beginning too, kind of going back to, it's just like, we don't always share the bad because, first of all, like, we don't want to live in negative, and it can feel like when we're sharing the bad stuff that we're just dumping negative energy on other people or something. But it's like, no, we're just sharing what's really happening so that others don't feel alone in that too, because it's not all just like rainbows and kittens for everybody. And that's just another way of connecting and learning, right? We learn more from the losses and the failures. So that's why if you let fear hold you back, like you're afraid you're going to fail or lose, well, like, you're learning less. There's so much to be taken from those things that you weren't successful at. And I think every founder or anyone we've talked to like hits on that. Like, yeah, if this sucked, this is what happened to us, this was this failure and that, but from that we grew 10 times more than if it would have worked out the first time or first go around or whatnot. So it's just like, we cannot let fear lead us, or think that things are going to happen again just because they happened one time. But it is easy to fall into that trap. I think it happens most in the terms of relationships. You get a bad relationship and you're so afraid that it's going to happen again. You're going to fall into like the same patterns, and it can take a lot of work, like, to make sure those don't happen again. But I think just being cognizant of those things and seeing signs or patterns or whatnot help us in those aspects. But that kind of leads me into our tits and ass segment, which, because I will share for sure what you are doing right now, Brooke, and what you're offering. But the reason I wanted to start the tits and ass segment was because of what I just said. Like, sharing our losses, the shitty times, should be more normal. So we know that, like, hey, everyone's in it. And it's not always going to be a super crazy, like, terrible life thing that happened that's your ass moment. It could literally be the dumbest thing of like, oh, I fell, I tripped going down the stairs, and then like my ankle was strained for a week, like, which is pretty terrible. But like, it can be a little thing. But I think just recognizing those shitty moments and then how maybe you turn your week around or something can just be very helpful. So I know I let you ladies know this a little late, so I don't know if you have any ready. And if you only have one, that's fine to share. But if either of you have one, and I can share mine first too if you want. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll share
let's
mine.
do it. I mean, I can go first if that's helpful.
Okay, my ass moment.
And I think real quick before I was going to say, like, before we kind of jump into that, like another thing that I've always like been constantly reminding myself of, even since kind of this big change in January, was like we know we can like feel so deeply, like the low parts of our lives, or like grieve really, like we feel so deeply because we know what the highs feel like, because we have that like opposite of like joy, happiness, excitement. Like we feel those so immensely when good things happen, because we also know what like the grief feels like. And they wouldn't feel so like, like endorphin inducing and exciting and all of that kind of stuff if we didn't know what sadness and grief and all of that felt like. And so we need those opposites to experience both equally, and like both have their, like their place in everyday life, in the grand scheme of life and everything. And so I just wanted to like add that in there as well.
I absolutely love that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. Like, you cannot have the good without the bad. Another bumper sticker. But it's so true. And that's why I think you see people who live a certain life, who maybe a lot of things were like handed to them, it looks, or haven't faced as much adversity, can be some of the more like kind of complacent, like stoic people, because they just don't have these peaks and valleys. And it's like, so of course, everyone, I think, experiences some, but it's like they don't know true joy. They haven't had true like hurt and pain, and it's just part of it. But I love it. I love that reminder so much. And I think
Hey,
my
out of
two
tits and ass.
yeah, I think my two things kind of complement each other a little bit in the way, because so the ass of my week, it's not something I'm like dwelling on. It's a bummer, but it wasn't like super unexpected, I guess, because so I've been reaching out for partnerships and whatnot, and from this brand that I've been talking with, and one of my favorite brands that I'm like always trying to just keep working at. I got the hard no for one thing. They did say like yes to something, but the no on the thing that I really want, but it's not right now, I feel. That's how I'm choosing to look at it. And so it's a bummer. Obviously it would have been amazing to be like, fuck yeah, we're in. But like I said, it wasn't super unexpected, and I'm not dwelling on it because I just think, again, what we've touched on, like the timing's not right, and it will work out eventually. And whether it's with them or not, like it's okay. Because if I don't get these no's, like you have to. You get 100 no's for one yes, and that one yes again just means so much more when you finally get it. So that leads into kind of my tits of the week. Was by the time this is released, I think the official kind of announcement of it will have been made. But I got into this leadership program that I had applied for that I didn't think I was going to be able to do at all because there's a very high ticket cost to it. But I was able to find ways to get the financial like support I needed to get this into this program. And so I got accepted into the program, and I am in this 6-month leadership program in the outdoor industry. And I'm super excited to start it. And I think it's going to be that one yes that can open so many more doors than maybe one of the others could have. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. How about you two?
Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
exciting. Okay, let's see. My ass for the week probably is a little similar to yours. Well, first off, this morning, I was like listening to my audiobook, doing the thing, and then it was like, boop, 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 like you have reached your maximum listening for the month. And I was like, no, like my book, I am so close to being done with it. That's like my first world problem ass.
Love it. Love it. It's a real thing.
My other one, it is probably, similar to yours. It's just like I've been, doing the outreach, trying to really like do the freelancing thing, offering up my services to small businesses, and just like kind of the theme that I'm noticing is a lot of like, not right now, I haven't budgeted for this, or my team is full, like I have everything mapped out. And it's not like bad. Like obviously that's great news for small businesses that they are like doing the thing. They don't have any holes that they need to fill. And so, but obviously for me, like trying to get this thing off the ground, it's a little discouraging, but it's not much different than like wholesale, trying to like go out and grow the wholesale business for Heather's Choice. So it's not that I'm not used to it. It's just like, really want to do this thing. I really want to help people and like offer up my services, and just like the constant theme is like, not right now, or like, that sounds like a really great opportunity, but like, I'll let you know when I have a project, or kind of like that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely like my ass for the week. And then my tits for the week is, let's see. Well, I thought my sourdough starter was like a goner. I thought I had like left it in the fridge for too long. And then I was like, oh no, I gotta revive it. And so I did end up reviving it, and I was like, yes. And then I think like one other one is like my Substack subscriber following has been growing like steadily. And I'm like, yes, people actually like to read what I write and put out on the internet. And so that's been like a really fun creative outlet that I just started. Ironically, I launched the first one the day before I was let go at Heather's Choice. And so like, talk about cosmic timing, but yeah. So that's been really fun. I'm like really enjoying the Substack universe.
I love it. And I love we're here to celebrate the littlest wins and the littlest losses to the biggest, like all of it, all across the board. Like we got to find the little inklings of like the pure joy and the little things that can really some days just, depending on what hormone stage you're in, like fuck up your entire day. And it is like, sometimes those are first world problems, but you're like, son of a bitch, and you just can't get yourself out of that mood or something until you revive that sourdough starter.
Yes. I know. I was like, oh, thank God I didn't kill you.
Like a Tamagotchi.
First world problems are problems too.
Yes.
Like, I know
Thank you.
there are grand problems out there, but
Yeah.
first world problems are problems too.
We also
I
all
agree.
know about those grand, big world problems going on, and sometimes it's nice to take a little break from talking about them. But Amber, how about you? What's your TNA?
Oh, so ass moment is what I'll start with. And it wasn't necessarily mine. It was my son's. He's really struggling with math right now. And I don't know if you guys have ever struggled with math, but I'm like, honey, this is one subject that makes people cry.
Yeah.
I was like, this is probably going to be your first obstacle in your educational career. And so just I tried to explain it to him. I was like, look, you just got to put your head down and work through it. And then one day it'll click. I was like, I wish I had more answers for you, but that's just how math problems go. And I'm so sorry, bud, but I will be here for you when you need me. And just know that this will be hard. And also know that these hard times in life will, like we were talking earlier, be the greatest lessons and will be the catalyst to a better you on the other side. Like,
It
this is
doesn't
going to be your
define you.
mountain. Yeah, you'll climb it. You'll go up and down the peaks and valleys. And then once you get to the other side of that mountain, you'll be like, what else can I do? What else can I do? So that was my son's ass moment. For me, my ass moment was I put too much on my fucking plate this week and just felt very overwhelmed all week with all the to-dos and the tasks. And then I did that thing where you like freeze and you're like, I don't want to do anything. So for me, that was my ass moment. And my tits moment is I'm taking off work early today and we are going to Seaside to the ocean, and we booked a hotel and we're doing like the hotel thing. And yeah, I think we are all very much so gonna need this little getaway. So that's my
Love
tip.
it.
Sounds lovely.
I love it both. And I love
And
that
also,
you shared Quincy's ass, because that's an ass moment for you as a mom.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to watch your people struggle. It's hard. And like being a parent to a child and being on the other side of a lot of the struggles that they'll go through and just being like, you got to do it. Sorry. Like, it's just a hard place to be, because you're like, you get through this, bud. You got this. Like these like little sayings and slogans, but like at the end of the day, you just got to sit in the shit with them and and be the safe place for them to unload all of their emotions. So it's a lot to bear.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, I'm glad you guys get a little getaway
the school
this weekend.
system also like sets parents up for failure, because they they just teach math differently every like 5 years, and so you can never like teach it the way that they're learning it, and you're like, I'm trying to help you.
Yes. Yeah. And then also like navigating the teacher parent relationship, because it's like, you're in class all day with my son, with all of his peers, and I have no idea what goes on. So I don't know what version of my son you're getting. But also you can't help but be like, how does that reflect on me? But at the end of the day, he's a good kid with a good heart, and he's trying, and we're all just trying. And to tie into a lot of what was discussed today is like, you just got to evolve, like with the good, with the bad. You just got to be like, okay, taking this in, whatever it is, and how do we move forward?
Absolutely.
Especially for us. I don't know if it's like just us millennials. I don't know if you're a millennial, Brooke, or like generations before us. Because another thing we've been doing in our household is watching the Wonder Years.
Oh,
So we're learning some good life lessons there. One life lesson that we learned this week is boys don't hit girls. And my son was very pissed off about that. He was like, this is unfair. This is unjust. So we are learning that lesson and evolving with it. But just like they were talking about like the Vietnam War. And so that also became a topic. And we just like, there's always going to be terrible things. There's always going to be good things. And you just have to roll with the punches and evolve the best way you can, even if it totally throws off your trajectory that you thought things were going to go. You just got to change your mindset and look at it from a different perspective.
absolutely. I think that's a lesson we've all especially been learning the last few years, and of the over word used of pivoting and adapting, but it's just true. And sometimes it sucks, but like I said, the only alternative is like to just, I don't know, lay down and like let everything conquer you. So it's like, let's not do that. Yeah. But it's been a lovely conversation today, ladies. And Brooke, I've loved hearing from you and your experience with the small business and where you're at now. And speaking of, would you share with the audience what it is exactly you're doing in your freelance journey, where people can find you and connect with you, like subscribe to your Substack and everything like that, all those goodies?
Yes. Well, per usual in the Brooke fashion, she's doing everything all at once. And so my business that I'm trying to get off the ground with freelancing is offering up services from sales and marketing help, whether that's like brainstorming calls with marketing, hosting campaigns for you, anything from auditing email automations or writing email newsletters, to website management, like helping do updates to your website that you just simply do not have time to do, to even podcast producing, which is like one of my favorite things to do, because like who doesn't love podcasts? And I always try and tell people that are like, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know, like there's just so many out there. It's like, no, like start your own podcast, do your thing. You never know who's going to hear it. You never know who's going to need to hear it. And just like, get it out there. Just start doing the thing. If it's really something that you're excited about and doing, like, let's do it. So I've been offering up those freelancing services, which is really fun and exciting. I've been chatting with a few brands that I'm hoping to work with, which is great. It's called Brooke Barker Pottle Creative, or BBP Creative, and it's just brookebarkerpottle.com. And pottle is spelled like bottle, but with a P. And then I'm also on Substack, writing for the Everything Digest, which is kind of like my ode to the Reader's Digest, because my parents were subscribed to that when I was younger, and I just like loved like going through that for whatever reason. As like a 10-year-old, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like everybody else was like Teen Vogue and like Cosmo, and I was like, the Reader's Digest, like I gotta have it.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, I just write about anything and everything there, like whether it's products that I'm using or kind of like what happened in the past month, to I did end up writing about kind of like that friendship loss with Heather. That was like a really big one that has been getting a lot of traction, and which I'm so grateful for. So it's called the Everything Digest on Substack. People can also find me on Instagram at BK Pottle. That is definitely just where I put all of my like daily life things, what I'm making with sourdough, to like crafts that I do, to just like silly things that Quinn and I do. So yeah, that's kind of like all the places that you can find me on the internet.
Love it. You all know out there that all of those links will be in the show notes, so you can find Brooke and connect with Brooke. And I know I will be talking to you very soon, Brooke. But thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story, because I know it's been relatively still like new and fresh, and all the changes and everything. And I'm sure you are having moments like I still have every day of like, oh fuck, like what are we doing? Like, this is hard. Like, when is something gonna give? And should I just like, go get that job? But guess what? I do that too. Like, yeah, you know what? May come the time that you're like, I need a little mental break, I'm going to go be a barista for a couple months. Like, you can still do it and work on your freelance. And everyone out there, like, if you, like I say all the time, if you truly care about something, have the passion for it, like, just don't give up on it. There's going to be, it ebbs and flows. There's going to be times you have to kind of put it maybe a little to the side, but just don't give up on it completely. And yeah, we're here for you. We're here for everybody out there. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.